So Dmitry, what are you optimistic about?
In the short term, I'm optimistic about broad MFA adoption. I think people are waking up, and there's MFA again. At a kind of strategic level, cybersecurity is starting to enter political and social consciousness. And what I mean by that is I actually encourage people to look into there was a cyberspace solarium commission. You can download the report. A lot of policy that's driven by the US government is a lot of the advice is coming out from that. There was a lot of really good advice in that commission. It starts kind of with a scary scenario of what can happen, IoT, water plants, water treatment plants being misused. And what's funny is that was published in March, and then last September we had an example of or it was December in Florida, there was a water pump or water treatment plant that was misused. But the U.S. government is starting to take cybersecurity more seriously. There's now I think there's an appointment at the cabinet level for cybersecurity. So that's good, right? And that means, and I trust that once a topic enters consciousness and once the weight of United States, either political or investment or capital system gets put behind something, there's a lot of innovation that's going to come out of that. And so the fact that it's now on the table, it's an issue on the table, not the security guy who's like nagging everyone by tapping them on the shoulder, that's a good thing. I think there'll be positives outcome. It might take a while, there'll probably be missteps, but it's a positive step in the right direction. And finally, everybody's scared of ransomware, so it means, again, it's awareness. I'm happy about the awareness. In the long term, what I'm optimistic about is tools like XDR, EDR, SOAR, extended detection response, things like that basically bring response to cyber attacks or to cyber incidents to be at the machine level speed. Because I right now can write attacks as an attacker. I can create attack chains that operate at machine level speed, meaning that I exploit. As soon as I exploit, I scan, I discover what I want, I run another exploit, I scan. That might take 10 minutes. A human, if they're lucky to get that alert for the first exploit or for the first scan while they're looking at the monitor, will not be able to respond in that time. So there are tools that are now they're starting to build up to be able to respond to things in machine time. That basically automates a lot of what Josh was talking about, the shortage of people, et cetera, in a way that'll be ameliorated by the automation at the management and the response level. Now, again, there will be a lot of missteps there, and we'll have to learn a lot. It's, not knocking Tesla here, just as an example, they're blazing a way forward, but there are missteps like with the autopilot and things like that. That's going to be kind of where we will be, but net it'll be a positive movement. Cloud-based security services everywhere with SASE stuff. I talked about SASE. You push it all up. A lot of that product fatigue goes away, and zero trust adoption. Again, that's a mentality. That's not a product. But the more there is that you don't need to access things that you don't need to access, the more that'll reduce the potential impact. Think of it as like the blast zone. The more it reduces the blast zone. When you don't have any baffles, when you don't have any internal segmentation, the blast zone is fully internal when you get into that GUI center or inside the castle. The more you have segmentation, the more you have zero trust and limited access, the more the blast zone of an attack gets more compartmentalized. And I'm making analogies from kinetic space to cyberspace, but they are very, very relevant here. Josh, back to you.
That's great, man. So it's interesting. We kind of built these slides separately, but we hit on a lot of the same things. So to me, short term is it's great that I feel like cybersecurity is actually on the mind of almost everybody, right? And that's in the private sector, that's in the professional, that's in all businesses, that's in government. I feel like it's here and it's here to stay now, where before it seemed like a fad and a trend that we would talk about cybersecurity. It's on everybody's mind now because of everything that's happening in the world. MFA is no longer a fad, right? It's not something that you do to try to be a little bit more secure. It's a requirement. And detection is trending up. And what I mean by that is, and you hit on that a little bit with the XDR stuff, but that is, we always talked about layered defense or defense in depth, right? So my new thing has been it's layered defense plus detection. Like that's for me, like don't give up the layered defense part of it. Like we need that. But the reality is, I said earlier, we have to be right 100% of the time and have to be right once. So what do you do on that one time where you're wrong? Well, now you have to have some detection. And we've seen detection is actually trending up. And I think in the long term, even for me, to jump down to my 3-year, is that layered defense plus detection plus remediation from an XDR standpoint. We launched XDR this past October internally for a lot of our customers. The take rate has been unbelievable. We're building such a large backlog of people that really want to latch onto our XDR system. And it's been great because now we're able to build that layered defense. We're able to supply detection for them by aggregating all of these logs. And, hey, Dmitry at 3 o'clock in the morning, logged onto this machine that he hasn't logged onto ever, but he also logged in using credentials that, seem to be somewhat stale. And then he started to exfiltrate data to an IP address that he's never done. Like, that pops an alert. Rather than that just being 3 separate log entries, it's creating one alert that says, hey, all these things are happening. Dmitry's doing something that's not really normal. But to drive that further, the 3-year is going to be the remediation of that. Hey, these 3 things happen. It has a criticality ranking. Go ahead and just knock Dmitry offline right now until somebody wakes up and goes and takes a look at this, right?
Or have him re-authenticate with his 2-factor authentication in order to continue.
Yep, that's where we're trending to. And I feel like 3 years from now, we're going to be a lot more passwordless from now. I think that's actually going to happen. We're already starting to see that trend with a lot more like biometric stuff that's going to come into play. Passwords are really going to die. They have to. There you go. There he is.
And I'm not a vendor for this. I'm just saying, and this is the future.
Yep. And then continuous vulnerability scanning. I've talked about it ad nauseum, but I believe that's it. I believe that we need to scan continuously. And I don't mean like once a week or, do our quarterly vuln scans. I'm talking about a system that is continuously scanning externally, internally, and popping alerts every time there's a vulnerability. It's getting sent to somebody, and then they're being told, what should you do to remediate this? If not, also, even let's look at it from a firewall. A network administrator opens up an inbound port to a server. He doesn't realize that that port actually has a vulnerability and that server is vulnerability and needs patched. When that firewall gets the request to open up the NAT policy and the rule, the firewall automatically scans the server and comes back and says, hey, there's actually a vulnerability on this server. You're getting ready to take this action and open it up to the world. Are you sure you want to do this? Like, that is going to happen. Businesses and people like SonicWall, they're going to be building stuff like this that's just going to protect you. Again, 90% of breaches happen because of something that had a patch was not patched. So why not, from a vendor standpoint, go ahead and help protect people with the knowledge that we have? So that's where I feel like we're going to be.